What's up, everybody?
Whoa, hi, hello.
Jake's here in person.
Hey, I forgot my guitar. Crap. This is, I don't know how I got here, but welcome to the Corridor Digital Podcast, everybody. Episode 138.
Hey,
Wow.
I'm back.
Yeah, thank you so much for your comments and your viewership on.
Oh, I totally forgot. I've been gone for so long. I don't even know how to microphone.
Thank you so much for your comments and your viewerships on the last episode. It was really just a lot of good. I think it was very cathartic for everybody, and we felt that we would be remiss if we did not bring Wren on to talk about this. So
he started it all.
Yes,
Oh
the
my
man
God,
who
dude.
started it all is here with us, Wren Weichman. We've also got Nico and
Hi.
Mr. Dean.
What's up, man?
If you need to know anything
Mr.
about
Dean.
any comic universe, Dean actually creates the stories for the publishers, comes up with them all himself. So
Since
welcome,
1938. Been doing
That's
it.
right.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, he's actually a time traveler.
Meanwhile, Nico's literally playing Civilization right now.
Wow, Nico, you really are selling how interesting these podcasts are to everybody.
No, trust me, this is good.
He's
This is
ready
important.
for Ren to rant because this is Ren's platform.
Yeah, let's be real. I'm here to spice up this monologue.
Just spice it up.
Not to like
Man,
hype up.
I feel like I don't have anything to say right now. I don't know. Nothing really happened eventful in the last week, except for, everything.
Except for
Lots
everything.
of things always
Okay,
happen.
so if you haven't listened to last week's podcast, I was not in it, but it was about something that I said. It was basically, I got so fed up and furious about my experience that morning with Adobe After Effects that I tweeted something incredibly out of character for me.
Yeah.
I tweeted something angry and I swore in it.
You use bad words.
I used a bad word. Oh no. Which, yeah, it's not something I ever really do publicly. It's not something I intend. It's not something, I don't know.
Did you just
I
feel like
swear
that was
in
the
private,
only?
like with friends.
Did you just feel like it was a call for help? It was like a cry for like, witness me. Did you feel like it was something like that for you, or
It was, I think, a breaking point. It was something that I've been kind of feeling for quite some time, years at this point, all coalescing into a single moment where I realized I'd had enough. It was the moment I slammed my hand onto the table after trying a second computer and was able to replicate the problem there. Listen, I have had so many After Effects crashes over the years. I've had so many software crashes over the years. It's not a big deal. It's just part of the game. And in this morning, because I was trying to finish up our satisfying render, I had already rendered
Coming
a
out this
second
weekend.
version of it.
And we had to watch it.
Yeah, and we're having to watch it. And so I was like,
in
all
an
right,
hour.
I'll just do this. Basically, the second half of my second render, which was a better simulation, didn't really work. And so I was like, all right, I'm just going to take my first render and do a mask transition onto the second render at the end of it. Just a simple mask, an animated keyframed mask. And it kept causing After Effects to literally blip out of existence.
Just
Like no crash, no freezing. I was just like, I would do something and it would just like, it was as if I minimized it to the tray.
and somehow it quit even faster when you actually quit the program.
It actually kind of created this situation where I was efficiently crashing it over and over again, I went into problem solving mode for 2 straight hours. I'm not exaggerating when I say After Effects crashed on me over 100 times in a 2-hour span.
is there a superhero that has this power, Dean? that you're familiar with?
I will say the blip, like when the window disappears rather than
It's so surprising.
starts like just slowing down.
Did you just
and
hit the
loading
Windows
screens.
button and like made them all go into the sub bar?
Yeah,
But like,
I just want to say the blip is less frustrating. I'd say, well, not 100 times, but the blip versus like I'm clicking, like I'm smashing my mouse. And it's
Yeah.
like the screen
because
turns
then
white.
that's wasting time. At least when it blipped away, I was able to instantly start After Effects back up and start trying. So it created the situation where I was able to explore a whole host of different possible solutions. Listen, I'm a seasoned crashing software problem solver at this point. I cleared my cache. I restarted the computer. I had re-rendered my render itself into different formats and imported that back in. I deleted keyframes and restarted from scratch. It was because it was always happening on the same frame. No, sometimes it was different frames, but usually on this one frame. And I was trying to like all this different stuff. I went to After Effects 2021, 20, 19, previous versions. Which requires you to like have to save out a certain type of older file to be compatible with the older software. I like trust me when I say that I did all of the things I could possibly think of to fix it. And the thing that ended up fixing
You're doing a simple effect.
I'm literally just animating a mask with a feather and also a variable feather. That's the only like complicated thing I can imagine for it.
Probably did.
And the thing that ended up fixing it was I added an additional mask on top of it, so I didn't have to animate the keyframe. It was stupid. It doesn't matter. The point was that I reached a boiling point where I just got fed up. I had to walk outside and get some air. And I realized in that moment that everything that I'd been feeling up until this point, which is that After Effects is old and decrepit, was true. And
well, not just After Effects.
Yes, it's a symptom of a lot of things that have happened to the Adobe suite. You know, you were complaining a lot about Premiere. Ironically, I've not really had that many problems with Premiere.
Well, Jonah just last night was here for an extra 2 hours just trying to export, and of course he had to.
Jonah, get into Resolve.
He said he's.
This is what happens.
Resolve is actually, it's like if you know Premiere, you know Resolve. Like it's not hard to switch programs.
He had a very basic problem too, though.
Yeah.
It was something like with his motion graphics, and he had to like re-export the motion graphics separately, and then bring them back in.
Essential graphics was always an issue for us, and like, you know, for us with Premiere, we worked on Premiere for years, and then last year we switched over to Resolve, and I mean, that years ago I was having these like critical issues. Like, I don't know if people remember the first episode Andrew Kramer was on VFX Artists React. Nick and I were here till 2 a.m. and we ended up screen capping the entire episode in Premiere. We tried everything, like, and I was able to render out the entire timeline, play through it fine. Couldn't export it.
And you couldn't even do the thing where it's like, all right, this is a cached file somewhere that you can actually open and access. It's some crazy like MPEG file type.
Yeah.
Couldn't even do that.
No, and so we just
those kind of bugs that also happen so often that we have a protocol for it. That's not the first time we had to screen cap Premiere timeline.
There's been multiple. I think there's been another episode and stuff I've done where I've just had to screen cap it out of Premiere, which is like, it's just ridiculous to think that we have videos on YouTube that's literally screen caps of like the episodes that we edited.
But you know what? I can forgive crashing programs. It sucks, especially in a professional environment where you need reliability and a robust program. But I think the thing that adds to it for me is just the overall feeling that the software feels old. You know, like I don't want to have to like.
Well, it might be worth backing up and like starting the story a little bit more from the beginning. I think one of the reasons why you're upset or why you're also like why it hurts, like you said, the software's old, but like we grew up on After Effects.
I started learning
how we learned VFX was through After Effects, you know. And
exactly. I started learning how to do visual effects, true visual effects, not like this clone cropping stuff in a video timeline. And it was like beginning of 2009. I discovered videocopilot.net and I was using CS3. After Effects CS3 and
Kramer here.
The crazy thing is that if you're to look at the user interface of CS3 compared to 2022, apart from like high resolution text and like slightly different color schemes.
You got those extra colors that you can label your layers now. You can
the
put
keyframe.
one in
They finally
magenta,
put keyframe.
and now you can put one in tan.
color.
So they got that.
Well, it's the exact same as what I'm trying to say. The overall user experience is exactly the same for the last couple decades. Or at least
It's
the
literally
very
the
least
same
last
interface.
13 years. Yeah.
it's like you guys be like, we nailed it, guys. We nailed it the first time. Digital video, barely even a thing yet, but this interface, it's perfect. Never have to change it.
So like Dean was saying, everyone started transitioning over to Davinci Resolve last year for editing, but I kind of like stood my ground. I was like, that's cute. That's nice. I'm going to stick with Premiere because I know how to use Premiere. Granted, Premiere and Resolve, they're both editing programs. It's the same stuff. You put video on a timeline, you chop it up. It's the same principles in Final Cut Pro, Avid, Premiere, friggin' LumaFusion, whatever. And
Movie Maker.
iMovie, Windows Movie Maker. Yeah, exactly.
It's just that one program actually uses your GPU.
Yeah.
And the other one doesn't.
Well, After Effects and Premiere have certain effects that will use your GPU.
Right.
It has, honestly, it has very good red reading. Like red footage works really well in Premiere. Which is why, like, we were having this discussion earlier with Jonah. He was talking about how he loves the proxy system in Premiere. And I was just like, I've never used proxies.
And also Resolve.
Like literally, I've never used proxies.
Resolve makes proxies very easy.
Yeah, like back in the day when we would shoot like those corridor short films, we would shoot them all at 5K or 4K, 6K, whatever. And we would just have the native raw files in the timeline.
And we shoot at max compression, which on the red still looks better than anything else on YouTube.
YouTube ruins it anyway, man. Like, you can't tell me you can tell the difference between 720 and 4K on YouTube.
I mean, I can tell the difference.
Barely.
It's harder to tell the difference between 1080 and 4K.
Yes, it's super hard to tell the difference between 1080 and 4K on YouTube.
Literally impossible to tell the difference between 4K and 8K.
Yeah.
Our eyes literally just don't have the acuity to like.
But it's not even the
like
number of it's not even the resolution. It's the compression of the footage on YouTube. It gets compressed in the camera and then it gets compressed again when it gets uploaded.
Yeah. Like Kendrick Lamar just put out his new music video, and it's one shot on a dark red background, and you just see these big blocks in
banding,
the background.
Yeah.
Well, that's, I think, that's due to the bit depth and bad compression.
Yeah.
So if you're watching these on CorridorDigital.com, you're going to get way better compression. Just a note.
It's ironic because like a static background with this type of compression should look better because the pixels aren't changing from frame to frame, so they should be the highest quality. Yeah. But it's that sort of like gradation of like a gray to a darker gray that you end up with that stair-stepping banding effect. Anyway, where was I getting at?
After Effects.
But yeah, like
it was our old love. It was the thing we started on. But here's the thing. Are we just teenagers experiencing this part where you fight with your parents because you're growing up? Like, is After Effects just, are we just outgrowing After Effects?
The first cut is the deepest.
Well, I was definitely starting to feel that. Because I have a friend who teaches Nuke. He's worked in the industry for years. And every time we hang out, he tries to convince me to get onto that Nuke train. And then we hired Fenner, who is a Nuke master and converted Jordan into a Nuke trainee, and he's now blasting away. And I'm just seeing the stuff they're doing. I'm like, man, maybe it's time I get into Nuke. But you know, really what it comes down to is it's time to get into a node-based compositing workflow. Yeah. And you know what else has that? Davinci Resolve. Technically, it's called Fusion, but it's inside the same program.
Here's free. This is what I'm getting to. I have one complaint about Davinci Resolve that I'll bring up when the time is ready.
I have some complaints too.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
There's something that you omitted from the previous podcast about a bad experience with Resolve, where a lot of work was lost. But the reason why I'm mentioning After Effects and Premiere just kind of feeling old is that Resolve feels new. It's a newer program. The program itself might be older. I first learned Resolve in 2014 for color grading. And it was like the thing that you would kick out a render from Premiere and import into Resolve to color grade. And that was when I started learning like the node-based coloring system and all that stuff with
that was how we originally used it. Was just as a color suite.
Grading.
But like now it's like
it was a $25,000 software before it was like free.
That's the thing. It's one piece of software that dynamically connects all the different facets of it. You got the Fairlight for audio, you have Fusion for compositing, and it's all very capable.
And each one of those has extraordinary depth.
Yeah. And
well, they're dedicated.
But it's so much more than just features. You know, I feel like Adobe is always adding features to their software, but it's like putting on more stuff on a pile,
more makeup,
but like the foundation is just so old that it doesn't feel sturdy, you know? After Effects doesn't. When I cannot export an H.264 file directly out of After Effects because I have to send it to Media Encoder, which is the worst program on the entire planet.
Yeah, which never works.
It okay.
Like, why do you want to wait 45 seconds for this other program
No,
to
that's
open?
that's
Boot
quick.
up.
Granted, I have a bunch of plugins, and all those plugins have to then open again inside this separate program, which is going to eat up even more of your RAM. And that's just so that Media Encoder can open. The idea of Media Encoder is great. You can continue working in After Effects while your video is rendering. But these steps, they're adding additional steps. And when those steps go from taking half a second to taking minutes, it's garbage.
Yeah.
And when Premiere first had like the dynamic link by being able to send stuff to After Effects, that was like the one thing that kept me as an Adobe user for so long. And I didn't even use it the way they intended.
Yeah, none of us do.
I never actually
No one
used
on
the dynamic
planet
link.
does.
It was, I would send it to After Effects to create a project file with my raw red footage with the correct in and out points and the correct resolution of the composition. And then I would go back to Premiere and hit undo.
Yeah.
So that I could get rid of that dynamically linked like
Yeah, 'cause
file now, because it gets rid of the
it's
original
in Premiere,
file.
otherwise it renders. Yeah, it literally gets rid of your raw clip. Who wants to do that? Just put the copy above. Come on, guys.
I told them that in person one time. To be clear, we've had conversations with developers from Adobe. We've been to like their Adobe meetups in Vegas at NAB, and I've literally talked to one of the lead developers, and I've requested that, like, please don't just replace it, just like maybe add it. And he's like, well, you could just like alt drag it up and then do it on that layer. I'm like,
Yes,
right.
you just added more
You're right.
clicks.
I guess I can do that.
But no, you just added more steps.
Exactly.
Like,
That's my point. It's that mentality.
Well, I
Yeah.
think it's because they're like, but that's what we want you to use dynamic link that way, but it never works that way.
right. Yeah, because why would you want to render an After Effects file in your Premiere timeline in real time? It doesn't work in real time. After Effects is not a real time program.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you can cache it, but their cache system is so fragile. It's like you move it a little bit and then it's like, oh, there goes the cache.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's like, again, in theory, it's amazing. You know, it's like being able to, if you have a sequence of shots and you can just like do all the work in After Effects and then go back to your Premiere timeline and hit, export, and everything renders all at once. Like in theory, that's great. But in practice, again, it's like friggin' old man with a cane trying to like do the 400-meter relay, and
Adobe.
Nico,
one of those, there's too many points of failure,
Nico,
And-
you know what's real cool is when you're in Resolve and you're editing and you just click over to the Fusion page and suddenly your layer is now a Fusion clip.
Yeah,
That's just really cool.
So great. And they have this like AI based depth mat that you can just generate. It's
Yeah.
almost like
yeah.
you give it a couple seconds and it kicks in, you just hit the space bar and it plays.
Oh,
And you can do
really?
crazy things like
and you
like-
know how After
Really?
Effects made a big deal about RotoBrush 2, but that's literally just a side feature in the color page on Resolve. It's really crazy.
Oh man, that sounds nice.
Oh man. Dude, they have AI based slow motion in Davinci Resolve.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's
It's
great.
it's like any like we used to shoot all the crew videos in like 60 frames per second so we could slow everything down.
You know, they have
No,
just
I
a
don't. Just
dedicated.
slow it down.
Well, you know, have you guys ever heard of ACES? They actually have full ACES support in Davinci Resolve.
Oh,
and it
yeah,
works
it's
really,
great. It's
It's really
wonderful.
easy. It's just like a drop down.
I mean, I had to install a whole like OCIO thing in After Effects to get that working, and it still like didn't work.
Not quite working for you there.
I'm of course like I'm dunking hard on After Effects, but that's because I'm just so angry, and I don't know. So I made that tweet and it went like kind of viral. It was like low key viral, it was like
Just Loki.
I got a lot of responses of basically thoughts that echoed my thinking.
Yeah.
A lot of people agreed with the sentiment, and
Same
I
with
don't
the-
want to just
The podcast comments are the same.
yeah, and
Yeah, a lot of people have the same experience we have.
and we're recording this pretty much right after the first podcast went live, and we've already heard back from Adobe. Like it caught their attention, and so I'm not going to comment any further on that because that's hopefully going to become an ongoing conversation. I would love if they like took our
All right,
stuff
suggestions
to heart.
time. All right, Wren, you're in charge of Adobe.
Oh boy.
Fix After Effects. What do you do? Fix Premiere. Fix whatever you want. Jump in. What do you do?
So
You have unlimited everything.
it's not worth it. It's important to note that what I said was essentially After Effects needs to be rewritten from the ground up. Like,
Mhm.
get rid of it, rewrite something from scratch that brings in new thinking, new innovative ideas, and new efficient ways to work with modern hardware that just feels modern. Like we have Unreal Engine literally rendering incredibly intense scenes in real time, and After Effects is like, oh, this shape layer is going to take 0.1 FPS to render and stuff like that. And so my suggestion was to completely restart it, but I thought about that more because I was talking with Stu Mashowitz from Red Giant, who is an old industry vet. Not that he's old, but he's been in the industry for a while. And he says he knows too much about software engineering to think about suggesting a complete rewrite. And so that made me start thinking about it. Ditch After Effects. Make something new. Make a new node-based compositing program that is an actual competitor to Fusion, to Nuke, to these programs, and keep After Effects around as like a legacy program. People can continue using it if they want, but there's this new program that does compositing with node-based stuff.
I was just gonna say, I think what makes After Effects special is that it's not node-based. It's the layer-based.
I agree.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm like, I really just want...
There's node-based tools out there, but there isn't a layer-based tool like After Effects. Right?
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say is like, you guys, myself, everybody upstairs, we all learned from Andrew Kramer, Video Copilot. And because layer-based is just easier to understand than node-based.
It's more intuitive,
because
certainly.
you start in Premiere or Final Cut, and you're like, okay, I put a video clip next to the next video clip, and then I could put one over it and turn the opacity down. And then After Effects is like the next step from there.
Yeah, that's really old film visual effects. It's layer-based compositing.
Yeah, and so is it still like, I think it's still, like Nico's saying, I think it's still worth it for people who are hobbyists, young filmmakers, you know, like I think there's immense depth to it, but it does have a ceiling of, like you always talk about, Wren, where it's just, it gets so complicated so fast when you try to do complex things.
And it's still possible, you know? Like I've done some of the most incredibly complex shots before, all in After Effects. It's like, it's just because it's possible doesn't mean it's the right tool for the job.
Yeah, you know,
I used to edit all of my videos in After Effects.
Well, and what else do you do?
Timeline-based editing and sound design.
What else do you do in After Effects?
You did sound design in AE?
Yeah.
Don't you use After Effects as your photo compositing?
Oh yeah, I don't know how to
program?
use Photoshop. I do all of my Photoshopping in After Effects.
Is this?
I mean, yeah, D used After Effects for the thumbnails for Node.
Yeah.
I did too. All of my thumbnails, all of my images, they're all edited in After Effects.
Well, After Effects is just Photoshop with motion.
Exactly. It's video Photoshop. Yeah. Video shop.
Yeah. But, you know, like, it's the tricky thing with a program like that is there's a million different people using it in a million different ways. And so, like, what we need isn't necessarily what other people need. So, like, that's where, like, as, like, a line of communication opens up between us and Adobe, and they're like, so what's up? It's like, I'm careful because it's like, I don't want to just say what I need because that's not reflective necessarily what everybody needs.
Yeah, they have to like kind of follow the least common denominator to a certain degree.
To a certain degree.
Well, yeah, they've done that.
But we can all agree that the program... I think we can all agree that, I guess what you're saying when you say rewrite the program, it's like, step back and what is After Effects supposed to do?
Not crash. That's first.
Well, yeah, that's
first is not crash.
Yeah.
Like what tools does it serve? And then build it from the ground up with a new interface in mind that minimizes your clicks. It minimizes things that you don't need to mess with. It does things automatically that otherwise you are always doing. Like, just have it figure it out and save me time. It's a tool, right? So if you had to push 8 buttons to turn on your car every day, it's like, boy, I wish somebody would just invent a car where you just had to push one button, because I'd have to just push the same 8 buttons every day.
And now our cars, we just get in and drive away.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no on button.
No on button. And that's kind of like what After Effects is. It's like, I still sit down and I have to push the same 8 buttons to turn it on. It's like, why isn't just one button yet? Like, you know, I do this so many times and so many other people must do it at the same time. I saw a presentation for a program called Autographs.
Well, wait, Nico, they have that. It's called nesting.
I saw a presentation for a program called Autograph, which a dev team is working on. I think they might be French, and it's basically straight up hey, we think we can make After Effects, but we can make it what it should be.
Oh, so it's layer based?
It's layer based. It has
And
a
node-based.
node-based version also, side by
Ooh.
side, running the same thing.
Whoa, so you can switch back and forth?
Yes, I believe. I hope I'm not.
I'm not sure how that's
misrepresenting
gonna
it.
work.
But
That would be nuts.
here's what's special. It's all hyper real time. So you drop in your footage.
time.
Hyper real time. As in, like,
real
you can drop in your footage. You can hit play while your footage is playing. You can change your composition settings. You can change your
Wow.
oh, I want my resolution to be this, my frame rate to be this. And the video, it's just playing. You can move it around. You can add layers. You can mask it. It's all playing in real time. They have a really nice, like, hey, you click on the video, rather than having a tiny pixel and then tiny pixel wide lines sticking out for your handles and your moving gizmo. It's like, here's all the different things you need, like squish, stretch, scale, move, translate, corner pin, with nice, easy big to click on icons, like all right there in front of you, like, thought through and made handy. And once again, it's just all real time. Pull the key, do a masking thing on the edge, and it's just like it's like Unreal Engine. It's like Unreal Engine versus 3ds Max. Like, one can do a billion polygons real time on my screen with global illumination, and one requires me to click 20 boxes before it even renders its first ray traced image.
Yeah. I'm okay. So there's a story I have. In After Effects, for the longest time, okay. So After Effects has the RotoBrush tool, where you essentially paint brush strokes, and the tool intelligently figures out where the edges you're trying to rotoscope actually are. And so if there's like a person or a car or a box or whatever, you just kind of do a green brush stroke over it, and suddenly you have this mask that has appeared along the edges of the thing. And where it isn't supposed to be, you take a red brush stroke across that, and it dials it back. And it's kind of like a back and forth sort of process on a frame by frame basis. But when you have hundreds of frames that you're trying to get through, you're going through like frame at a time, maybe sometimes every other frame, and you're looking at the actual image, and you're staring at it, and because you're trying to like study how it's moving. And so you're almost kind of like looking at it in an abstract way, as opposed to visually looking at something like you would when you're reading. And what After Effects would do is that you would make a brush stroke and the entire image would blank to black for just like a half second, sometimes upwards of 1 or 2 seconds if you had a lot of keyframes or your shot was really heavy, and then it would come back. But the problem is that now that frame is out of your visual cortex, and you're now looking at a new shot without that sort of before and after comparison, like stored in the RAM buffer of your brain. And it was just it would ruin your flow. And it was so hard to try to use RotoBrush when that would happen. And it got better in iterations since then, in versions of After Effects since then, but it would still happen. It literally still happened to me in After Effects 2022, a couple months ago. I was trying to do RotoBrush stuff, and it would blank to black. And so we were at NAB 2019, I believe. Maybe it was 2018. It was a few years ago. And I remember we had a conversation with one of the lead developers on After Effects, one of the product managers. And I remember asking him, is there any way to fix that? And he's like, no, the code that everything's built on is too old. We can't fix that.
Damn.
He said to my face that they cannot fix that problem because it's too old.
Time to
I will
abandon
never
ship.
forget that. I don't even remember who the guy was. I do not remember his name. I'm sorry to anyone who might know who that was and they're trying to figure it out. But it's that type of thinking that I'm frustrated by, It's like, oh, we can't do that. This is too old. Then freaking make it not old. But
make it not old. Yes.
But here's the problem, though, that Adobe is facing, because they have a prime example of a company that took a program and completely rewrote it from scratch, and then everyone hated it. Final Cut 10.
Does everyone hate Final Cut 10?
They did when it first came out.
Yeah,
but
I feel
that's a
like
bunch
they've
of,
come around.
There's I watched a whole amazing documentary about it. A friend of mine actually edited it. So I forget the name of it. God dang it.
Well, actually, you know what?
It was a huge controversy at the time, and it's single-handedly why Adobe Premiere started blowing up.
Except Apple didn't make Final Cut Pro 10 for pros.
It's iMovie Pro.
Yeah, it's iMovie Pro.
And I think still
It was iMovie Pro. Now it's legit Pro.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well,
now it's okay. The documentary was about how they wanted to reapproach the software, and they did exactly what we're describing. Apple literally did that. And then they put out this program that they thought, all right, here's a new fresh way of thinking about how you edit, all of these cool new features. And it was different. And so everyone who used Final Cut 7 hated it. They weren't able to do some of the same things they'd always done before. And it took about 2 years of Apple constantly putting out new updates for Final Cut 10 for people to finally be like, wait a minute, this is actually amazing.
It was like No Man's Sky. Remember that game?
It's exactly like No Man's Sky.
So Adobe's got to grit their teeth and do that. And they're going to have to go through 2 years of people whining about it.
Yeah, because people will
That's
be
how
mad no matter
people
what.
are
Yeah.
on the internet.
And now that you have people who are like Final Cut X, Final Cut 10 is like the best editing program out there. They wouldn't dream of using anything else. And I'm talking about like so many of the top YouTubers who are editing videos and whatnot. They're all doing it in Final Cut 10 on freaking iMacs.
I feel like
on their
Resolve,
laptops.
Resolve is definitely on the up and up, though. As more people move to it, I feel
agree.
like they're putting more resources into it, and I think it's quickly becoming like, I don't know, like the premier.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess
don't
what
wanna
I'm
use
trying
that
to
word.
say is that like maybe Adobe is afraid of that happening to them too.
It's always a concern. I'm sure it's always
And
a
it's
concern.
a reasonable concern. But now
But After
Final
Effects
Cut 10's awesome.
After Effects should play in real time when I put a video clip in my timeline and hit the space bar. Like when that's it, when I just literally put a video clip in my timeline and hit the space bar, that should play in real time.
Yeah.
And the fact that it
Yeah.
doesn't, it's like
It still has to load it to your cache.
some problems exist for so long that you can't see them anymore. And that's one of those things. It's like, where's the engineer at Adobe who looks at the program fresh and goes, wait a minute, why am I accepting that I have to sit here and wait for this thing to take this long to open? Why do I accept that I have to sit here and wait for this thing to have to load a single video with no effects on it? Why is that okay in 2022? You know?
Yeah, why do I have
is
to watch
that-
it at quarter quality?
Yeah, why do I have to put it on quarter quality? Like, where's that mindset? You know, where's that person working at Adobe and looking at After Effects like that? Where's the person who goes like, okay, I use the program all the time. This is a thing I do all the time that takes me 8 clicks. How can I make that 1 click?
Do you think
Where's that person?
that they're working with artists who are using the program?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, because
I do because
they communicate with
resources to.
them, but I feel like it's like Ren saying, where it's such an old program at this point to build on top of it. It's like you're just I mean, it's kind of like the US's laws. Like we just keep throwing more laws on top. It's not like, okay, let's break all this down. Let's figure out from the ground up like what we do.
You know,
here.
we used to just have one. It was called the Constitution, and then we had to fuck it all up.
Yeah, and it's just over time. I think it's just anything. It's like, what is it? The law of
It's-
entropy or something? Like,
I mean, yeah, it's like, again, I understand it. I get it. It's like you have all of these features that just kind of end up bloating the stuff up, and then they have to go through and create a new feature, a new optimization that takes like this chunk of the pile and makes it like smaller, but it's still standing upon the foundation of a large ass pile.
Yeah.
I think Freddie said it best in response to Caroline on that tweet where it's like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you're doing your best. And she did. She's a warrior. Respect. But like, you know, that's not going to accommodate the fact that there's like decades of technical debt.
Yeah, it's technical debt. That's exactly what it is. And Scott and I talk about this, and we go over that on the site
Ooh.
too. And it's a real thing. Like you have to be on top of that because you'll go, oh, well, we're just gonna quick do this, or we're just gonna quick do that, and then like time goes by or something takes off, and then you don't come back to the very basic things that just aren't working, that need to be working.
So how would you define technical debt?
It's, I mean, at least in my experience, it's basically just glitches. It's like little simple things where it's like, oh yeah, I know that's a glitch, but if you just do this thing that you shouldn't have to do, then it works.
I would call them bandages, like
yeah.
shortcuts, where you're making something and you, instead of creating a really robust system, like whatever that little thing is, instead of creating a robust system, you're like, it's close enough. I'm gonna hack the last 10% together.
Yes. Yep.
And those 10% hacks accumulate over time.
Yes.
That
Yes.
is the debt.
That's exactly it. That's exactly
You got to
it.
pay your dues.
I feel
And
like that was Steve Jobs' whole. I think that's why people look fondly back on Steve Jobs so much, because it's like his whole thing was like, it all has to work. It all has to
Yeah.
work, like for just a person who hops into this program with no knowledge of it. they need to do something and it just works, you know?
I get like the kind of mentality it takes and like willpower to be a person who somehow like stays the bulldog for that very simple adage of like, it has to work. It's like the same thing with you're making like movies or videos.
Yeah.
It's like a shot's out of focus. It can't be out of focus. Everything needs to be perfect.
Yeah.
Like, and like, I got it. It's like, is it perfect? Well, no, there's this little thing. It's like, where did I stutter? But somehow you have to be a person like that pushes and pushes and pushes and pushes, because human beings, we have technical debt.
If you want to know,
Yeah.
if you want to, then this isn't meant to be an insult to all humanity. But if you want to know how humans are, just watch dogs. We're not any different. Dogs will do whatever you let them get away with, and humans are the exact same.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, like I was watching this show, Tokyo Vice, I think it's called, on HBO last night, and there was a shot in the show where like you could tell there was like some gimbal shake, and it was like kind of moving back and forth, and it's like, this is like a high budget HBO show, and they just left that in there, and then it just totally takes me out of the show, and now I'm like, you know, questioning the whole thing, and like, and that's the technical debt, is like the little things add up.
It's hard. It's hard in my personal experience and on the site, and like I know how much Scott and the devs put into the site. Like, I do not intend to discredit that in any way. But sometimes I got to be that guy where I just got to go, well, look, I know, but this thing doesn't work. So
Yeah.
what do we have to, and you know, we might be off in this other direction, or there might be something else that we're trying to get done because of videos coming out or what have you. But sometimes you just got to stop and go, okay, well, let's boil this down to the functionality of what we need this to do. And you got to keep coming back to it. You got to constantly be coming back to it, because there's no curing technical debt in development ever. It will always be there, no matter what you do. But yeah,
It's almost like maintenance. The thing is, like, there's that line though where you can't you gotta see the forest and the trees or whatever. Like with the green screen, it's like, all right, technical debt. A janky green screen is technical debt. You have to deal with it at some point in the post-production process. So let's build the psych. Okay. There's this little bit here. Let's patch it up. I know it's gonna delay things a little bit. It's worth it. Okay, and we gotta adjust the lighting like this. Let's set it up like this. It'll pay off later. But sometimes you get to the point where it's like, okay, if we have to do this next thing, we have to now delay the shoot by a day.
yeah,
And like,
right, exactly.
do you want to pay the technical debt to the point where you're not even achieving the
Right,
project?
No, that's the
that you're
balance.
building it
That's
for,
the balance.
It's
That
because-
has a lot of usefulness.
It's just
Yeah.
It's
it's perfectionism, and that's the balance.
Perfection is
of
the enemy
life.
of progress.
Yeah.
That's the balance of life. Yeah.
That's the old phrase.
I mean, our whole mantra is finish it and move on.
Yeah.
That's how we get all these videos out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, okay, we have a green screen and we shoot 300 or 400 shots on it, and then we spend 5 months doing post-production because the green screen was janky. Or we could have just done a week of extra prep on the green screen so that it would have only taken 1 month to do. These are all hypothetical eventualities. Who knows how it'll actually be. Hopefully, with the effort we've now put into that green screen, the green screening process should be a lot quicker.
Well, and it's the same thing with an editing program. Back to Premiere, is like, if I get to the end of the process on this episode and this specific error is popping up because my project's just gotten too big, this timeline's gotten too large, that little error will, like, that could cost days, because it's like you lose a day of progress or whatever. Like, as those errors pile up later in the process in these programs, I feel like the more, I don't know, I feel like for Premiere, that was always my problem, was like, the bigger my project would get, the more like critical errors I would have.
Yeah.
And the more errors you have, but then it's also like the more vital it is to not have an error, the bigger project gets.
Oh, so that reminds me. You guys did get screwed over pretty hard last year by Davinci Resolve.
Yes, but I think it was a lack of that. It's certainly something they can fix. I think what you're referring to is that we are using the collaborative features of Resolve so that, you can check off enable for collaboration on a project, and now we can all work in real time on a project together, which is insane.
Yeah,
It's
that's kind of
incredible.
nuts. That's cool to think about. Which again, Premiere
I guess they actually
had to
have that.
some degree.
Well,
Like,
they
they've
have
got-
it, but it's on the cloud.
Hmm.
So it's kind of like, now I gotta be like, I don't want to be going across the internet. I want to be, I can local network. I want my local network,
But yeah, what the thing I'm remembering was, so the whole like collaborative process and how like Resolve works is that you have like this server, I guess, where all the programs are kind of like looking
Or a
at
database.
a database, yeah, and that ended up getting wiped or something.
Well, no. So what
Well, okay,
happened was,
let me finish what happened then.
Well,
So it's
what
like,
I
regardless of
remember-
what that was, it ended up with Nick losing 2.5 days of editing, and he had to start over from scratch.
So what
Mr. Here's
what
your
happens-
response.
what happens is that when you're not enabled for collaboration, Resolve, which is an amazing feature, it live saves. So every mouse click is a save. So you don't have to, like Premiere, I was just like Control S,
Oh,
like
yeah,
every
dude.
5 seconds because I was so scared it was going to crash.
Dude, it's my
Resolve
muscle
has you
memory.
covered, right?
Mhm.
Until you enable it for collaboration. And we were operating, or I think Nick was just learning it at the time, because it was like I hopped in and then Chase hopped in and then we all started hopping into Resolve. Nick was learning it, so he didn't know that when it's collaborative, you have to physically save a
Or enable
backup
the
of the
live save.
project. No, you can't live save when it's collaborative.
I think you can. I think it does it now.
Or maybe they updated it, so
Yeah.
it doesn't now. Which
Now it's
fixes
like a
this problem.
non-issue.
Would
but
that be
this
technical
is-
debt if that was?
If
It was,
that was
it
still,
was technical debt, because what
Yeah.
happened was Nick accidentally deleted his whole timeline, because if you have in and out set and you hit delete, it'll delete the whole timeline.
That's what it was.
So
yeah.
and then he freaked out and he just started like hitting things and I think it crashed on him, because Resolve does, because there's so much data contained in a timeline, because the timeline also has like data for fusion, data for color and all that. It does get a little clunky when trying to move timelines, duplicate timelines, all that stuff. So the program crashed. He reopens it, all this entire timeline, which Nick, you got to duplicate timelines. You got versions and stuff, but so this was his only timeline of editing, and he lost it and lost that whole day.
Yeah.
it was more than a day. It was like it was 2 days.
It might have been 2 days. Here's the thing though, is how many times did that happen to me in Premiere? Many times where the project itself is cursed. Like I
Yeah.
can't do anything with the project, right?
Corrupted project files. Oh man.
And that error honestly was more on us. Like the live save should be enabled during collaboration, which I guess it is now.
Yeah, here's the thing. It's like somebody at Davinci who listened to feedback was like, okay, this functionality is confusing and it's being missed and it's costing people work. Let's adjust the default moving forwards. Let's not just stack another layer on this where, here, we'll just hit you guys with 10 more options. It's like, no, we're going to change the approach. And if you don't like that, you're going to have to update yourself to meet this new way we're approaching it.
Yeah.
And just like they made the right decisions though.
Yeah. And I think, there was a lot of stuff like that with Resolve where I was frustrated about it at first of it not being there, because I was used to it in Premiere.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just adjusted my mindset and I was like, oh, this works way better than,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
because I was so used to doing it like
Blender's
this
kind
in
of the
Premiere.
same thing for a lot of people where it's like moving from other programs into Blender. It's like, oh, this is how they do it now. Oh, I can see how this is really fast. That's how Unreal Engine was for me. When I
Yeah.
went over like the way you move around a 3D viewport in Unreal Engine versus
Yeah.
like everything else.
That
It's like,
took me an hour to get used to.
yeah.
Yeah, but
once you're
being
done,
able
it's
to
like,
just fly around.
yeah, it's like,
with
why
WASD.
isn't every viewport like Unreal's viewport in terms of its controls?
Yeah.
To be clear, it didn't take me an hour to get used to the WASD controls of Unreal. That's a
I-
video game. That was instant.
I
But
like
it was like the
Double click
the
to, like-
left click and the right click being it like left and right and up and down, or left and right and forward and back. It was kind of like a bizarre way of moving, but like after like kind of getting used to it, I was like, okay, I can see that.
We don't have to touch the keyboard. Yeah, on every other program, it's like, well, we might have like left click, right click. We have like alt click. And it's like, wait, but what if it's just left click, right click, and then both clicks? And then your right hand just is independent of your left hand now. Less clicks, less keyboard, it's more efficient.
Right.
It's faster. It's the speed of thought,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I do feel like for me, like, and I mean, these are the programs I use, but like Resolve, Unreal, and Blender all they just feel right. Like they feel
They
like
exemplify a new approach.
like it's a simple way of doing it, you know, from the ground up because Blender's open source,
Mhm.
Unreal's free, and so is Resolve. Resolve's free. So it's like tons of people can just get in on the ground floor, use it, give feedback,
Mhm.
and I think because they're free and because they're so open with people, I think that's the culture there. Is like, hey, like what are the ideas out there? Whereas like Adobe's like, hey, you want access to our products? Well, pay us $52 a month.
I
And
guess
then
it's $70 a month. now,
$70 a
right?
month or whatever. And
I
it's
don't think
like
it's 70 a month.
It's still 52.
52.
Yeah.
It's just like I don't like this idea, and this is like across our economy now, where it's like you don't own anything anymore. You know, it's just like
Which-
you get a ticket. You get a ticket to
Get
my
the
Adobe
ticket to attend
you
your
know,
freedom.
It's like give me
Yeah.
let me buy one version of Premiere, and then you can release the next one in a few years or something.
But that's how it was forever.
No, I know. But then they switched to this subscription model.
And I'm not inherently against the subscription model. Like I actually find a lot of usefulness in that. I like being able to just always have the most up-to-date software at my fingertips. Like Maxon One, for instance. We now have ZBrush. We just have it. I didn't buy it, but we have it. And maybe now that we have it because it got acquired by Maxon. And now if you have Maxon One, which includes Cinema 4D, Red Giant plugins, and all like a bunch of other stuff, it's like you now just have that. And it's the same thing for Adobe and like Substance. I think they acquired Substance, but is that part of the Adobe Creative Cloud now, or do you still have to
I
get
don't
that
know.
separately? I don't know.
But by the way, Adobe is $82.50 a month. If
Oh,
you
to
buy
buy
it
it
monthly,
now?
you can buy it yearly for $55 a month, which is really it's $660 a year.
They must have us on like a
We might be paying, I don't know,
80
like
a
a
month.
grandfather
we're probably paying
plan
the
or
yearly
whatever.
bill.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, you can't cancel your yearly thing. You're
Oh,
billed
man,
monthly, so if
dude.
you're halfway through the year, like, I
Right.
need to stop paying this, they're gonna keep charging you.
What happens to me, because I don't have a Creative Cloud membership anymore, but what happens every now and then is like, you know, I'll take a photo and I want to open it in Lightroom or something. I'm like, oh dang, I gotta, you know, get this like $10 a month one for it's like literally just for Photoshop and Lightroom, I think is $10 or $20 a month.
Remember when we used to pirate them?
Yep, way
That
back in
was-
the day.
I mean, I don't know about you guys. That's how I got my start.
Yes,
That's how I got my
Pirated
start too.
Premiere,
Dude.
After Effects.
I think that's a
all
pretty
of them.
shared experience, and I think that's something Adobe themselves even kind of recognize, which is why they went to the subscription model. They're trying to follow the whole Steam format of like, you know, Valve pioneered the idea of like pirating isn't a crime problem; it's an availability problem. I'm butchering the quote, but
No,
it's
that's
like
pretty close.
But it's like essentially like if you make a product easy enough to acquire, people will just do that as
Yeah.
opposed to jumping through hoops to get it for
Totally.
free.
If you can get it for free easier,
That's
than
why.
you can
That's
pay
why I
for it.
started paying for Spotify
Yeah.
Yeah.
because it was so easy to get
Yeah, who wants to download
The
music these days?
freaking largest music library so immediately available.
Yeah, it's
They
kind of
just made it easy. It was like,
Yeah.
oh,
Before you
I
had to,
I
you
literally have to
find
pay
an
you
album.
$10 a month to get access to
all the music.
pretty much all the music.
And you
Now,
organize it for me?
yeah, there's been qualms. It wasn't perfect, you know, but like to that like that alone like killed music piracy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, so there's a bunch of comments in the previous podcast that said, all right, if you guys are dunking on Adobe, what should people use? Let's talk about alternatives. Let's talk about free programs for a second here. We just highlighted how expensive Adobe software is. So first and foremost, obviously we're talking about Davinci Resolve. There's a free version and a studio version. So if those of you out there are wondering what the paid version has, basically it has noise removal. It has support for higher than I think 4K resolutions. Actually, you might be able to go higher than 4K now in the free version.
Free version does 4K.
Okay.
I don't think it does above 4K.
Yeah, you can do like 8K and stuff.
It
like
used to
that.
be limited to 1080.
That's right. And then there's like a couple other like
Does it have
higher end
collaborative,
filters.
the paid one, studio?
Oh, that's right. I think the collaborative server mode, where you can
think
all be
so.
working off a central database. Like you
Yeah.
can work off a central database in the free version, but to have the collaborative mode going, I
Yeah.
think you have to pay for that.
And aren't there some other like GPU features like
Multi GPUs,
multi-GPU?
I believe.
Oh,
They
okay.
once again that might have changed. Blackmagic Design is not really too interested in trying to make a bunch of profit off of Davinci Resolve. At least that's the impression I get.
Yeah, it seems like they
It's
just wanna-
hardware that's their main thing.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's like the like Microsoft and Sony making consoles is like they want people to buy the games. And
Yeah.
like the console is just to get you on those games. So it's almost like because that's another thing about Davinci is the Blackmagic cameras work so nicely in that
Yeah.
program and are like it's just like this perfect marriage, especially in the color page, obviously, because it has access to all the data in the camera.
Yeah, and they have like their stream decks, they have their video cards, they have their video output cards. There's like a whole bunch of stuff. Capture decks.
But dude, you're right. If like when I was 17 years old, that was the first time I started like doing video editing, and it was super basic. And I was using like my dad's copy of like Pinnacle Studio
Oh,
Pro
yeah.
17 or whatever. But like these days, the software, you can literally make a feature film quality thing using nothing but free tools.
Yeah.
Which like visual effects is an all-encompassing word. And for years I only did like 2D compositing type visual effects. I didn't know how to use a 3D program, and the ones that were available were like 3ds Max, Maya, Cinema 4D, all these super expensive programs, or you had Blender, which was like the most complicated puzzle on the planet. That I don't know where I was going with that. Basically, Blender has gotten very good and it's free now.
Yeah. So Blender's
Or
like
no, it's always been free. It's very good now.
yeah. So Davinci Resolve is kind of like I would say everybody's go-to for free software for editing. Also, it has Fusion, which is a node-based compositor. It's totally fine. It's great. You can
Yeah,
use
it's
it.
solid. You
pretty
can
good.
do what you need to do.
It has an audio like dedicated page for doing audio mixing. It has
Really?
color grading. It's world class at color grading. It is one of the best programs out there for color grading. It's
Mhm.
literally used on films. So
Yeah.
it's weird to like have an editor program and then you like flip over to the color grading side and you're like, this is really, really, really good. Why is this part so good? And it's like, oh yeah, it's because this is the industry standard.
It started as that. Yeah.
Don't forget about the cut page,
The
Nico.
cut page for all you vloggers out there. For all the people that like
and
Final
the
Cut
deliver
10.
page is like as robust as Media
Yeah.
Encoder.
So
Yeah.
then if you wanted to be doing 3D work and even compositing work as well, Blender is the next thing that people should be checking out.
Oh, also like before I ever started recommending, DaVinci Resolve for a free editing / VFX program, HitFilm.
Yeah, HitFilm.
HitFilm was great.
HitFilm is actually a really good After Effects alternative.
Yeah,
It's
actually.
and Premiere alternative. Like if you want to stay light with your program and you don't want to go super heavy into like Resolve. I mean, I would argue that Resolve's not that heavy, but HitFilm is like a really familiar feeling Premiere and After Effects kind
Yeah.
of environment. There is a free version, I'm pretty sure, and there's like a paid version, which isn't that expensive.
It's not. And I forget how they do it now, but it was like the paid version I think was like a couple $100, and that essentially included a lot more different like plugins and effects
Yeah.
for the effects side of
Yep.
things, like various features. But like if you just needed to slap something together real quick, maybe throw some simple effects on, and you didn't really have much time to like go through your
you're
email to
starting
find
out.
the password for your Adobe account
Yeah,
or
HitFilm.
whatever to like have to like install it and then all that stuff. It's like HitFilm's free and it works great.
Yeah, and honestly, it's so robust. It's like not just if you're starting out, but like HitFilm's a great alternative. People should definitely check that out too. There's Blender. We talked about Resolve. So if you're in Photoshop and you're looking for alternative to Photoshop, there is GIMP, which is all right.
What is GIMP?
GIMP is like
Bring
an
out the
open
GIMP.
source like image editor. It's not that bad. I used it. It's got your basic like cut stuff out, move it around, put text here, shape layers there. There's also I think Affinity is
don't know that one.
another software package that's a competitor to Photoshop.
Yeah.
We should ask Griffin about.
The main thing is there's all these free tools.
Yeah, Affinity Photo. That's the one everybody's
start
talking
with
about.
those. Start with the
Yeah.
free tools.
Mhm.
GIMP is
Utilize
the free
those.
one.
Figure out what you need based on what you can get from those free tools and what you can't get, and then make purchasing decisions for other types of programs and hardwares based upon that experience. Don't just be like, oh, well, someone told me that I needed to, before I can even shoot a video, I need to buy a camera, I need to download Adobe Suite and pay for it, and I need to buy a PC.
No.
It's like, no, if you have a smartphone and like a
Yeah.
basic access to a laptop, you can pretty much make any YouTube video that's been made.
Like it's just crazy to think about between Blender and DaVinci Resolve and the camera phone in your pocket.
Oh yeah.
you can make something, because what wasn't there like an Oscar nominated film that was shot on an iPhone
With
or
Blender
something?
and Davinci Resolve in
Oh,
your phone, you
try-
can make a film as good as any film up to like 1996.
Yeah.
Like straight up, like every single effect shot.
That includes Forrest Gump.
It does.
No, it's not Saving Private Ryan. Terminator. Jurassic Park.
Yep.
Citizen Kane. And I don't know. There's a few others before '96.
And then let's say over the
summer.
summer you get a job at Taco Bell, you save your money,
Right.
you can buy the Blackmagic Pocket 4K, which
Yeah.
I think is like $1,200.
$1,200.
now.
Yeah.
Which is
really? Wow.
a like you could put
It's like a Red.
You could put that stuff on Netflix.
You buy seriously. You buy one Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 4K and an 18 to 35 millimeter lens, and you're good.
Yeah.
I'll do you one better. You get that freaking nifty 50, man.
Yeah,
The $90.
Dude, I had that one.
Go on eBay. It's probably like $2 now. They're probably,
Dude, yeah, you could probably
some
get
guy's
one for
probably
$2
using that to
probably.
prop up his
You
like
could probably
coffee
get
table.
one at a garage sale for
Yeah, I mean, I've always said invest in glass before cameras, because the glass will last forever, as
Yeah.
opposed to your camera getting outdated in a
but
couple
you also
years.
don't necessarily, if it's your first camera, you don't necessarily know why glass is important.
Well, and yeah, and also I've always said that like, don't invest in a camera at all. Invest in a PC. Invest in a computer, because that's going to
Yeah.
be where you spend most of your time.
Totally.
If you want to shoot something and you really want to go all out and make it pro, you can literally rent a Red camera for a day for like $100, maybe $200 or $300.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario. And that's like, and then you get like a day or two rental on a cinema camera. You shoot your whole thing, and all your money you spent is going towards the machine that you're going to spend the next few months editing on.
That's true. Yeah.
But these
having
days,
the PC is more important.
I've kind of come around to feeling like the phone is the thing that you should invest most of your money into now. Especially like, I mean, for the stuff that I do with like all the photo scanning and the AR real-time tracking and
Well, yeah,
just the
for
quality
3D,
of the
it's-
cameras.
I think for about a grand total of $3,000, you could probably have access to all the hardware and software that you would need to make some of the most professional video content in the world.
Yeah. Definitely.
And then you load up Unreal, which is also free, and you got
And then you can
virtual
make a video
production
game.
backgrounds.
You can pull out the Mandalorian.
You could just
boom.
make the Mandalorian for $3,000.
Yeah, Dean's not that far off, by the way. It's like that's kind of the thing. It's like the money is on, you spend the money on the people so that you get a bunch of people who are focused on doing that. Like the hardware these days is not really the bottleneck.
I mean, freaking Ian Hubert made like a Hollywood level.
God, the Ian Hubert stuff. That's
film
such,
just
it's
by
so
himself.
good. Yeah, it looks so good. It's amazing. It is literally better VFX than a lot of the stuff out there, because it's just. I
He
don't
did
know.
make a bunch of gnarly practical sets, though, that really,
True, but
Yeah.
he is also incredibly talented.
yeah.
That's right, Ian. You're listening to this right now. I know it. Also, I want to shout out Procreate as another good software alternative
oh,
to
I
Photoshop.
love Procreate. Wait,
Yeah.
I wouldn't really use it as a Photoshop thing though.
It depends on what you're using Photoshop for.
Fair.
Obviously, there's painting, but even photo touch-ups. Procreate's not that bad. I've actually
Okay,
used it a little
okay,
bit for that.
okay.
Man,
I'm bummed. I lost all my paintings because I was doing them all in the Procreate beta, Procreate 5 beta, and then that beta expired and I can't open it anymore.
My paintings.
Yeah, no, I'm bummed. I had a
I
lot.
didn't know
more
you were
like
a Rembrandt,
Procreate.
Ren. A Wren.
My
A
NFTs.
Wren brand.
But okay, so to go back to the question you posed earlier, you are the senior product design engineer for After Effects,
Mhm.
and people are up in arms about the program. They are frustrated, and everyone has a different reason about why they hate it. And
Mhm.
it's your job to kind of like observe everything and then try to come up with a reason or a pathway to solving that.
Yes.
And I can't pretend to know what it's like to run a software company, to write code for a program like that. Like, I don't know how large the After Effects development
It doesn't
team is.
matter. Here's the thing. It doesn't matter. It's like watching movies. It doesn't matter how much you know about how movies are made. The movie's good or it's bad.
Yes.
There's no
Or-
excuses.
Yeah, it
Yes.
doesn't matter how much they spend on it, and like
Doesn't- yeah.
this shot.
Doesn't
Doesn't
matter how
20
hard-
people set up that.
Doesn't matter how hard
gag.
it was. Doesn't
Mm.
matter. Yep.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, no, you're completely right. I guess what I'm trying to say is I just don't know like whether or not my request or any of those requests are reasonable requests.
I think the reasonable request, and I have to go after this. This is me wrapping up my part of the podcast. The reasonable request is look at what your program does. What is preventing it from doing that smoothly and quickly? What are the things that everybody does all the time in your program, and how can you make that faster? Don't worry about new features. Like, just look at how everybody currently uses it. Make it faster, make it smoother, make it less clicks, make it more stable. That interface, look at what it's supposed to do. Have it do the exact same job, but literally from every single pixel, redo that interface and just have everything aimed at its function, like perfectly. Have everything run fast, have everything run real time. Utilize 100% of my computer's resources. I have talked about no new features at this point. I just simply talked about taking your program and taking its basic functionality and actually making it do its basic functionality. That's it. If I was in charge of it, that's the thing I would do. And that's going to take probably like, had real life, that'd be like a 5-year endeavor right now. You know, it's like, start working, get that pickaxe out. Let's go.
Yeah.
Like,
well,
yeah.
I think eventually, I mean, I don't know, their business model is so grand now at this point that I think the Adobe Creative Suite is almost,
you're probably right.
You know, like
They're
one of
probably
their,
like, whatever.
It's one of their, it's like, oh yeah. Yeah, hey Adobe, so how you guys doing? Hey, how's the customer service going? Good, all right, keep it up.
Yeah,
Frank.
what is the percentage of the company that's the Creative Suite versus everything
They're
else?
doing a whole bunch of other stuff now with like respect to cloud and like big
Frame.io
business and yeah. So they're international and doing all this crazy stuff. So I don't think that Adobe Creative Suite is honestly their biggest thing. In real market like economics talk, what's probably going to happen is if they keep going this way, eventually they'll lose so many subscribers to that particular aspect of their business that'll either become like something that just becomes a legacy, or somebody will break it out and fold it into something else, and you know, and the market will do its thing with it, and it'll become.
If people jump ship, they're going to notice, and that's the only solution here is like for people like Wren to be like, I'm not using this program anymore, and then not use the program and stop paying them.
I've already watched a few hours worth of tutorials on DaVinci Fusion.
And as more robust options become available, more and more people will do that. And you know, it's sad, but that's kind of how it works when you're talking about these huge international billions and billions of dollar companies. Is like it'll probably get split off and somebody else will buy it and do something better with it. That's honestly, I think the best we can hope for.
Or people just, I mean, right now people are building alternatives, and as
or
time goes on, those, you know, brick by brick, those buildings
become
get taller.
AOL, dude.
Yeah,
it's still there.
Seriously, like there's, like I said, that autograph project, like that program, it's After Effects, but it's real time.
Yeah,
with a real thought interface, and like it's intended to be quick and easy.
And yet I still have that same guttural reaction of, I don't recognize that user interface. I don't like it.
Yeah,
Which I know is not like the moment I think logically, I'm like, oh, it's not that different. I can learn this new one. That's not a big deal.
It's like,
it's certainly easier looking to learn than Fusion.
It's like, why do I have to hit A instead of V to select? I don't want to use this program.
Yeah.
I think there's a uniform stubbornness to all people when it comes to trying to learn something new, because learning is hard.
Yep.
Yes.
And if you're a company that makes software like this, you just got to take the time, like try to get out there, get your users, let them grow with you as you grow together. And as they become professionals, your software will be the thing that they use.
Gosh, this was so helpful, guys. Thank you so much. I feel like so much better now, you know?
Yeah.
I feel like
Jake, I know you had a lot of struggles with After Effects.
I've had so many struggles with After Effects. I mean, there was one time I did a shot for Wren, and it was, but I do have my ventures in Premiere and in DaVinci, and yeah, it's been interesting.
Well, I'm excited to get into some DaVinci. I'm gonna, like, whatever my next project is that I'm gonna have to edit or do VFX for, I'm gonna try.
No,
do it
you have to make a rule. I will not touch any Adobe products. That's the only way you'll
Is there
learn.
a video idea here? Can we do a video about this?
Let's do it, man.
Because it's like I need a video project
all
to
right,
exist.
Everybody, thank you for listening to the podcast.
In order for me to learn something.
I hope you guys had a good time. All right, I promise we're done ranting about
right.
Adobe products. We're good now.
Yeah.
I feel better. I can't believe this took 2 podcasts to fully get off our chests.
I feel like it's all out there now.
Yeah. Hey, tell us about your software stories in the comments below. Hey, but for real, actually, all the comments on the podcast are super cool to read, and like I really like the discussion, and all the comments on last week's podcast was really neat to see. So it's cool to know that our experiences echo a lot of other people's experiences. All right,
thanks for watching, everybody. Till next time, adios.